HQ, and today is going to be a short tutorial where I'm going to show you and explain to you how the database relations work within your Adalo database. And there are basically three kinds of relations that you can create, and relations are basically kind of connecting different data types to one another in your database. So let's jump over to Adalo first of all, and I create a new app called relations, and currently right now completely empty. And so if we go to database, we have these things called collections, which are our data types. So we have users, we have things like, let's say you have a restaurant app, you have restaurants, maybe you have reviews. And obviously you want to kind of connect these to one another. So obviously a rating will have to be made by a specific user, and it has to be made for a specific restaurant. A restaurant will therefore have a list of ratings beneath it, okay? So these different relations can be done using these relations in Adalo, and it's important to remember or note that there are three different kinds of relations you can use, and they will depend on exactly what use case you are looking for. So again, in the example I gave before, obviously one review can only be submitted by one user, but many reviews can be for a restaurant. Okay, so how would that look? So let's just do as an example, let's add a collection and call it restaurant. Okay, so let's use the example I took. So we have restaurants and we have reviews. All right. And for restaurant, let's just click ahead and click on add property, and we have this thing called name. You could obviously add more things, text, add the pricing, the menu, whatever you want to add. But we're gonna jump down to relationship, and you can see you can add a relationship. So in this case, we want to add a relationship to a user, okay? And now you can see these three different relationships, and Adalo does quite a good job of explaining what exactly this means, but we're gonna jump a bit deeper into that and explain it a bit more. So you have three options. One of the options is one to many, many to one, or many to many, okay? And let's jump to a quick sketchpad I created. Really simple, but let's just work with that. So let me just add a few more shapes here. So this is many to many. All right. Okay, so please excuse that the circles are not in the same size. They should be in the same size. So let's look at all the relationships. So first of all, we have many to one, okay? Let's compare that with Adalo. Okay, this is this one. A user can only have one restaurant. A restaurant can have multiple users. Okay, so let's do that R here. Oh, let me actually use a text here. Okay, so this is R, and this is U. Let's compare. This should be U. All right, so let's take a look at the first two. So we have many to one, one to many. Okay, let me add the arrows here. Okay, and again, please excuse the way it looks, just for explaining purposes. So the two kinds of relationships we're going to start off with is many to one and one to many. Let's start off with this one. So in this scenario, you as users are as restaurants. One restaurant can be assigned multiple users. And this scenario, one user is assigned multiple restaurants. And these two are different things. So let's take a look at the first example here. Let's say you have this data type and you have one restaurant. You have restaurant A, okay? And in that restaurant A, if you take a look in the database, you will have a field called users, and you will have in this field multiple users. User A, okay, user B, user C, etc. And then if you take a look at user A's data entry, user A will only have one restaurant assigned to it, in this case restaurant A, okay? And you won't be able to add more restaurants here as a list. So this is the structure here, okay? The other structure will be exactly the opposite, okay? So in the other structure, we will have user A in the database, and then we have restaurant A, we have restaurant B, and so on, okay? And then if we take a look at restaurant A, for example, restaurant A will only have one user assigned to it, and this will be user, whatever the user is, okay? Oh yeah, user A. Okay. So hope that makes sense already. So this is basically defining who should be allowed to have many data things assigned to it, to maybe keep it in simple words. Okay. So let's take a look at an example of that. Where would you use that in a real scenario? So this is quite obvious to me. A user can have multiple restaurants assigned to them. When would you use that? Well, you would use that when you uh, to add allow users to add restaurants to their bookmark list. All right. So let's say you have an app with different restaurants, and with this data relation, what you would do, you would add a button maybe underneath each restaurant, and then it says add to my list, add to my bookmark, and users would be able to add this restaurant they're looking at to their list of saved or bookmarked restaurants, and can then take a look at that later. So each user will be assigned a different restaurant. Okay, this would be the use case here. The use case here would be a few different things. Depends on what kind of app you're building. But let's, for example, say restaurant A and user A, B, and C, that would be the customers. So in this scenario, we could have, for example, that each customer for a restaurant is saved. Let's say that's a grocery delivery app or restaurant delivery app. And every time a user orders something, he'll be added to the list of customers. So each restaurant has a list of customers. Okay, in this case, restaurant A has user A, user B, user C as a list of customers. Another option would be each restaurant has a list of users that reviewed this restaurant. Has a list of users that reviewed the restaurant. All right. So this is another explanation. Okay. Now let's take a look at the third option, which is many to many. Okay, so basically looks like this. We'll take a look at that here, and cross and so on and so forth. So like this. How would that look? Well, that would look like this. User A can have restaurant A and restaurant B, or maybe not B, he wants to have C. And then restaurant A can also have user A, but they can also have user B, they can have user C, and so on and so forth. Okay. This relation allows you basically to have no, I'd say, limit. It allows you to connect all kinds of users to all kinds of restaurants in this case, and doesn't give you a limitation like these use cases here does. The good thing about these use cases or these relationships are that you clearly identify, well, okay, in this case, list of bookmarks. Obviously, restaurant A is bookmarked by user A, and user A has a list of bookmarked restaurants. If we take this example and transfer it to this one, allowing users to add restaurants to their bookmark list would also work. Okay, this would mean the relationship will be a bit different. All right, in this relationship, user A still has a list of restaurants that he added to his bookmark. However, restaurant A will also have a list of users that bookmark this restaurant. Okay, so the difference between these two is that the restaurant A is clearly assigned user A as a single value without any list. Okay, and in this scenario, or in this case, a user restaurant A will have a list of users which bookmark this restaurant. Okay, so both things will work. I can't clearly say now which is better. I would probably choose this option, but again, you could choose this one, no big difference. But yeah, the importance is that you understand the differences between these data relationships, okay? And again, the good thing is always Adalo kind of words that here for you. So a restaurant can have multiple users, and user can have multiple restaurants. And then once you choose that, this is set, and you can then connect the data points to one another using these kind of relationships. But it's really important to understand these three kinds of relationships and obviously their use cases, okay? So yeah, that's basically it. Quick tutorial explaining relationships. I hope you learned something, and I'm gonna see you guys for the next tutorial of Nocode HQ. Bye.